Welcome, everybody, to the Loud and Drunk podcast. This is Dan. This is going to be a two-part episode, so we're going to get all this out of the way right now. Make sure that if you are listening to this podcast on YouTube, that you like, comment, share, and hit that notification bell. Subscribe to this podcast everywhere you get your podcast. Hit us up at patreon.com/loudanddrunk if you want to support this podcast. And hit us up on social media. We are at Loud and Drunk on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. All right. So it's been pretty warm out, for the last, couple months, especially in New Jersey. Oh my God, all the humidity. But it takes me back to a time that we all traveled to Colombia. And so we have probably the biggest podcast that we have ever done at the Loud and Drunk podcast. So we have the same regular crew. We got my Liberty buddy, Moses. How you doing, Moses? Okay.
Oh, I love Colombia.
Okay.
Well, there goes YouTube.
Yeah. And that voice you just heard is Justin. And Justin, you've brought along a friend as well.
Yes. My wife is back.
Kristina, how are you?
Good to be back.
Me llamo Pedro Alejandro Perea, and I'm very happy to be back.
And you brought along a friend as well.
I did. In fact, it is my Liberty buddy, as it were, my darling lady right here.
Unfortunately.
Nick, how are you doing?
Good. Happy to be here.
All right. So a few months ago, we all took a little trip to Colombia, as Moses alluded to with his totally not, I guess, advocating for drug use noises.
Are we not allowed to talk about cocaine now?
Well, maybe not in the first 2 minutes, Moses.
Well, sorry. That's when I do my cocaine.
In the first 2 minutes of the podcast?
Of the first 2 minutes of when I have it.
Oh, my goodness gracious. But a question that I got a fair amount of flack for us going to Colombia. It's like, what? You went to every place in the United States? Now you're going to go outside? I'm like, can I just use my passport once, please? But Pedro, you are actually the catalyst for this trip. So why was Colombia a big selling point for us?
So I, obviously not my first time there.
Mm-hmm.
Half of my family is from there. My father specifically immigrated here in like 1955, something like that. He was a pretty young man at the time. He was the only one of our lineage that came to the United States. So half of my family that I somewhat know, somewhat don't, they still live there. So I started going there when my dad was still alive. Went there several times with him. After he passed, continued to go, something of a tradition now. And yeah, basically, I love the country and the people and what have you. I was fortunately, I had some friends who joined me along the way, Mr. Justin right here. And yeah, basically, just like a place that I just love to go back to. I think it's beautiful. I do not care for the heat. I don't even really like how warm it is in New Jersey right now, much less in Colombia. Though I will say there's something to be said for when you're in a really tropical place where we went to Cartagena. Basically, it's 50 miles from the equator, something like that. So it's always the same temperature. It's balls hot. It's very uncomfortable. But the culture, the people, I just love it there. And so I love to share it with my friends, and I'm blessed with people being able to join me for it. Gone by myself as well, which is also delightful. But it is the devil finds work for idle hands,
Justin, Pedro just said that he had gone a few times, and you had gone as well. What were you looking forward to on this trip to Colombia?
Well, to go back a little bit, as Pete said, he went with his father when his father was still around with us. And I went on one of those earlier trips. I mean, that had to have been over 15 years ago.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. And I believe this was my third trip with you going to Cartagena. Right, and he's absolutely right. It is incredibly gorgeous there. It is exactly 90 or 91 degrees and sunny every day.
Every day. Yeah.
Does not change, but I mean, I haven't been there in the wet season, so I don't know what that's like.
You can catch every now and again when you're there in the wet season, you'll find these thunderstorms that roll overhead. And we actually talked about this because I hope that you are able to experience that
in the future for sure.
Yeah, it's like a quick 15-minute most intense storm that you've ever felt before. Basically happening at ground level. The lightning is just going off around you, sort of scenario. But yeah, the rest of it is exactly as you described.
Yeah, all my memories of Cartagena, Colombia are exactly the same because it always looks exactly the same. And the conditions are exactly the same. And it really is a marvel. But for me, this time, what was really important was got to bring my wife this time. And obviously Pete has a lot of love for the city. I got a lot of love for the city. And I wanted to show Kristina so she could see part of what we do. And I think she had a really good time there.
Kristina, I think the rest of us had never gone to Colombia before. What were you looking forward to on this trip to Colombia?
Honestly, I had no expectations for what I was about to experience, but I remember maybe 2 days in, Justin had turned to me and asked me like how my experience has been thus far. And I remember turning to him and saying, best trip of my life.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
I absolutely loved Colombia. I loved the people. I did enjoy the weather. Not a fan of the heat, but there's a breeze in Cartagena that it makes the heat bearable.
Yeah.
And I was nervous about it because I'm not a heat person.
Same.
And it did not bother me in the slightest. Even like in the car, which is like a thing for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't travel well
Yeah.
in the heat. But it's such a beautiful country. The people are amazing. And I absolutely loved it.
Nick, what were you looking forward to in going to Colombia?
I also kind of feel like I went into it with no expectations, but I just wanted to connect with my friends, you know, and have a good time. I haven't been on a lot of trips with like a big group of friends. It's usually just me and one other person. So it was really cool to have all the people that I loved in a new place that I'd never been before. So I was happy with whatever the outcome was.
Moses, you're last for a reason. Because I think I know what your answer is going to be for this question, and it rhymes with propane.
You're right, Dan. It is the friendship that we build. When we get to experience new, I had no real expectations of Colombia. I've been to a lot of islands and places close, but never to Colombia proper. So I had an idea, but no real expectation. Like I wasn't looking like, oh, this is going to be like, oh, I can't wait to see this or, you know. But it was a lovely island, and I would go back there continuously.
No.
I have to say that I would go back in a heartbeat, but I would need to be dressed up as Mr. Freeze from Batman. I would need the continuous air conditioning suit because, we'll get into it. But before we actually get into the trip in general, just even getting to Colombia was something of a trial for us. I can say on my end, when you guys were all booking your flights, I don't know how you guys did it. I did it while working, which is probably the worst possible way to get that done. We went from March 7th to March 12th, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe that's correct.
So your boy had booked to March 13th, and I don't speak Spanish, and I had no place to be beyond the 12th. So that was a critical error on my end, and so I had to jump back into Spirit Airlines and modify. And since even when I booked the flight,
It's very easy to do with Spirit, right?
It's
Change your flight.
it's easy, but you gotta pay.
I feel like that would have made the trip more interesting. Like you get there and you have an extra day, and you're like, "Where do I stay? I hope I make friends along the way."
I'm sure Moses met some people that you could have
I think
stayed with.
I had people chanting for me.
You're confusing Dan with yourself. He does not. He's not a propane kind of guy.
No.
He uses electric in the household.
We don't like you charcoal people.
When I looked at the itinerary that I had, it said March 7th to March 13th. And I had to text you, Mr. Pedro, for the itinerary again. And I was like, what are the dates again? And sure enough, you said the 12th. And I was like, oh, no, I can't have any of this. I can't be a homeless man in Colombia.
I'm not
for a
going.
day.
I'm not going. I'm staying
It
home.
looks real easy. They have a lot of cocaine.
Well, I could just grab some mangoes and just do that
Yeah.
for at least an evening.
Yeah.
There's like, mango.
You don't know how to say it like that.
No, I don't. Again, I do not
Kids
speak
learn.
Yeah. That wasn't bad for a gringo, but you really need that.
Tell him, Peter. Tell him how it
yeah.
is.
Oh yeah, mango.
There you go.
Mango. There's always that fourth one in there, like just in case you didn't hear the first three.
I kind of want to dance.
Yeah, my thing was naranja.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But I couldn't have that, so I had to go in, I had to pay out the ass to modify the trip. That way I could travel with all of you and get back to the United States safely, and we'll get into that. That was my pre-flight issue. But then what we were going to do, we met all up in our old studio, and I had grand designs of actually recording a podcast right before we were going to leave.
I do recall that being an idea.
Yeah.
I love the dedication.
But
Really
what-
inspiring.
But as soon as I got there, I was really thinking to myself, no, I'm not going to do this unless somebody says like, hey man, let's record a podcast tonight. Like, no, I'll just bring this computer and like edit on the trip or something. But like, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to record anything tonight unless somebody makes me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was mutual for all of us.
But Justin,
Yes.
you had actually set us up with actually a really nice plan to get to the airport.
Of all the best laid plans.
Yeah.
So, all right, strap in. So basically, if I remember correctly, our flight was very early in the morning, probably sometime around 5 a.m. or something like that.
It was very
Sounds
early.
right.
Yeah.
Early
Yeah.
5.
So our intention was we were flying out of Philadelphia, and that's from the old studio. What's that? Around an hour away.
About an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. About an hour.
So I had organized a limousine company to pick us up from the studio to bring us to Philadelphia Airport. And that pickup, if I remember correctly, was probably like 1:30 in the morning, I think it was
Something
supposed
like
to be.
that,
Yeah.
International, you're supposed to have like 2-3 hours.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we were playing somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
I remember it being 1:30. I
Yeah.
remember that being the cutoff.
Now, for a little, how do you even go into this? We were at the studio for a while, and we're
Yeah.
getting picked up by a limo. So we are, some of us are drinking, some of us are sleeping.
We could have totally recorded.
Yeah, we could have. The gin was flowing that evening.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
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 Because we had a driver.
Yeah.
So it gets to like 1 o'clock in the morning about when the driver should be showing up. And for a little background information, it is raining and storming outside like a motherfucker.
Cats and dogs.
Yeah.
Like South Vietnam.
Yeah. And this is like one of those situations that you just expect things to go as they're supposed to go. And the time for the limo driver to show up comes. And then minutes start ticking by.
Yep.
And I'm getting nervous, so I'm outside standing in the rain in the intersection.
I want to, if I may, just
Yeah.
interject right there. And this is just like a little side note for myself, because I don't even think that we like discussed this fully afterwards. But it's that I know you to be like a beacon of calm.
Mhm.
You know, when everybody else is losing their shit, you're normally like a very stoic person, and you were that night as well. But you kept like walking outside and whatnot, and I began to like feel your anxiety.
Yeah.
And it's like I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, and I'm gonna throw myself like, you know, to the wolves in terms of criticism right here. I felt like it's when you have like a dog and like you're upset. And you're not like, and it has nothing to do with the dog, but the dog is like aware of that. And I like felt that way. I like for the first time in my life, I'm like just looking at what you're doing, and I'm like, oh my God, Justin's got his, like he's doing this, he's making this happen, but his anxiety is just making me uncomfortable.
The
and yet I'm
anxiety was
almost
palpable.
just like a dog, incapable of really doing anything about it. So I'm like, I'm just gonna sit here and be anxious too. And thus all of the drinking as well. So I just sat myself down with the ladies and just did that game.
I think that it was kind of mutual because I was inside in the studio with the girls, and you both were kind of like, what do we do? What's the
Yeah, that's
next
kind of
step?
what I mean. Yeah, like I'm following him out
Yeah.
as if that's useful in some way.
Yeah, me and Kristina were trying to come up with a plan B, and nobody else could be fucked with a plan B. You were like, Pete was like, I'm gonna have another glass of wine. I'm like,
Yeah.
but what about getting to the airport?
Yeah, I was like, Justin's got this.
Yeah, and he's super courteous too.
Yeah.
I would have called the limo company.
Yeah.
I was.
Oh,
I thought you
he
did.
was. That's
Yeah.
what he was.
They just didn't answer.
Long time prior
That's
to.
what he was- that's
like
what he was doing outside.
yes, he was calling, but I'm such an anxious person. So for me, my anxiety was like max. And yeah, me and Nick were like, what are we gonna do? Like, we gotta come up with something.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we looked at Uber, and then I booked an Uber, and then it said like, okay, they'll be there in about 30 minutes. And I was like, we don't fucking have 30
I think it was just pending.
And
Yeah.
they didn't even show
It
up.
was just like so late in the night that it was just like wouldn't even tell us when. It was just pending.
Yeah.
I thought I got this, like, they denied it at a certain point. Like, it was, we
It
were
was like
waiting
one of
10
those
minutes
things
and
where,
then...
where
I don't know. I think it got
done.
accepted at one point, but then it was so far away at that point. It was like it wasn't
That
even
it
an
wouldn't
option.
matter.
It was
Yeah.
just, I mean, regardless of the details of it, it was just one of these scenarios where just everything was going wrong.
Yeah.
You had planned it out correctly.
Yep.
The girls tried to salvage it.
Yep.
They did everything correctly. And then it was just like all of the plans were just gone. Plan A failed. Plan B failed. There was a plan C. That one just didn't even get off the ground. It was...
I was out standing in the middle of an intersection, like the saddest scene in a movie. Just in a complete downpour, leaving nasty voicemail messages on the answering machine of this limo company.
Just standing in the rain, waiting
Just standing
for
in
your
the rain.
husband to come home from work.
Yeah.
Justin,
like a 90s video.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna.
It's like Sarah's smile.
I was gonna go with
Sarah.
Sting. It was just like you were literally a part of that song, King of Pain.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, like I'm keeping it together, but like mentally, like I'm mad. I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
I set this up, so like
That's all the feelings that I was sensing.
yeah,
And it's just like when producer Dan is upset, it's like I just need to give a wide berth.
yeah,
But I just want to help so badly.
yeah.
There's a little bit to come, but I have to speak on this point then.
So like time's ticking. Uber's not working out. Taxis aren't answering the phone. Like we're getting down to like the red line here, and so we like, all right, I think we're gonna have to fucking drive. And we had 6 people.
Yeah.
We weren't fitting in one car, so we had to take 2 cars.
Yep.
Not comfortably with luggage.
Yeah. So we had to elect the people that had been the most responsible that evening to drive.
Yeah. I'll admit that I was reluctant to that.
Yeah.
Despite that, you guys obviously made the right
Were
choice.
you reluctant?
I
I,
should
thought
not
you were
have
the
been.
first one to volunteer.
No. I meant
No.
that I was reluctant to choosing the drivers that we ended up choosing. I didn't want for my lady.
I think those
right
were the
here.
best ones. I
Yeah.
get. Wait.
No, that was the right move.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I get
I was
that,
reluctant because I was very drunk, and sweetheart, I love you so much. Your driving makes me uncomfortable. So that's why I was reluctant to that. Also, I was very drunk, so I was not aware.
Well,
of
we're
really what was-
alive, aren't we?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. You did a great job.
Are
Take that
we?
as a win.
I was just reticent
A win
at
is
the
a win.
time because I had drank so much because I thought that we were taking a limo. And then like this shocking reality, which should have been apparent to me for about a half an hour, it was finally like becoming real. And I'm like, oh my God, there's not going to be a limo driver.
Yeah, you were like stumbling into my front seat. And you were like, all right, let's go. I'm like, that's adorable. I don't care if my driving is terrible. Get the fuck out.
No, you
Well,
did
wait-
a great job though. You did.
Wait for the Shyamalan like end twist on podcast 2 because we're all dead.
So, I mean, as you could probably pick up, our drivers were obviously the women who were responsible
Yes.
in the evening. So Nicolette was driving one car and Kristina was driving her car.
And I gotta pop in here.
Oh, well, please
yeah,
do.
well, I chose because of your palpable aggression. And I'm like, well, this guy still got shots.
It wouldn't have mattered to you. You were napping the whole time.
I was drinking shots with him on the
then-
ride there.
Napping.
Yeah, well, because I drink a lot. I was also high as fuck.
So what Moses is saying is true. We were both going into your car with you and Kristina. And then he pulled his bag
Yes,
out
yes.
and went into the car with Pete and Nicolette.
Yes.
And I went into the car with
Yeah.
you guys. And it was like a flashback to like being a child. I'm like, oh my God, the tension in this car right now.
Yeah.
I hate it when mom and dad argue.
Meanwhile, there is no
We
argument.
were not arguing.
Yeah.
This was like one of those rare scenarios for me to piggyback on that. When Moses jumped into the back of Nicolette's vehicle on the passenger seat where I belonged, and Moses hops in the back. And I forget exactly what you said, but I was like, what are you doing here? And you were just like, way too much drama in that car. And then and I was like, you want a shot? And you were like, yeah. I was like, oh my God, for the first time in my life, I love your energy right now. I need to come down off of everything.
What? I just came off of a good win. Like I wasn't in that car with the anger.
There was no anger. It
There
was
was anger. Oh, he was radiating it like it was a goddamn fucking boiler.
Boilers radiate anger. I'm choking on a cigarette right now. Jesus.
Yeah, our car was the tense car.
it was
My fault.
It was-
I'm super
Well, you were
anxious.
driving hard.
I'm
and
super
it was
anxious. We
terrible weather.
also neglected to say this was a weekday we left on. We
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
worked that day.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're talking about like 2:00 in the morning at this point. I go to bed at like 9:00.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
So
hear that.
I have not slept. I wake up super early in the morning. I cannot see in the dark,
Yeah.
let alone the rain in the dark.
And yeah.
Plus, like I said, I'm super anxious.
And
And
it
I'm trying
was-
to catch a flight.
It was, and even in the best of conditions, that was white knuckle driving.
Yeah.
It was a bad storm.
Yeah.
I
And
also
you guys both drove like an hour. It must have been.
I
more.
also have no idea where I am driving
Yeah.
from where the old studio was to the airport. I'm from the North Jersey, so for me, I'm like, give me a highway.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah, they give you
70% of the way there's like this weird.
Yeah, it was all back.
dark,
for sure. Yeah.
every unlit road in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Like, when am I going to hit a highway? Poor Nicolette, who had to follow me. I feel like I was pausing because like a mailbox got in front of me and I was too afraid thinking it was like a dog. Like, I felt so bad. I was going so slow. But yet we're all in such a rush because at this point we're running late.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I wasn't in that car.
And I actually said that. I actually said that when Dan tried to break the tension in our car by saying something funny. And I was like, thank you. Thank God you're not Moses right now. Because if you were Moses and tried to make a joke, I would have lost my shit. But you actually understand.
We wouldn't have been on the highway yet.
I would have lost it. But I was so grateful that it was Dan that got in our car and not you.
Good decisions were made that day.
If I remember correctly, I was like, it is so tense in this car right now.
Yeah.
Like, just trying to break the fourth wall. And we were like, all right, yeah, it is pretty tense in here. It's like, all like, calm down. But I do remember being like, listen, if we just maintain what we're doing right now, we got plenty of time to get to the airport.
Yeah.
So that was me also trying to be like backseat, like driver
And
coach.
you did a good job.
Being like, all right, no, we're going to make it. So just calm down. We don't
You got
have
your
to
eye on the
worry.
prize.
Yeah.
Just keep it there.
Again, very grateful it was you in the backseat.
Kristina, it sounds like you won. In
I
this
did.
situation.
I did. I felt bad for you.
Yeah, because Pete and Moses are both like drooling out the mouth. Pete's telling me I'm a terrible driver.
I didn't
All the
say
windows
that.
are open for
He
some
did
reason.
say
The windows were open.
I didn't open them.
I didn't call you a terrible driver at the time. I saved that for the podcast.
You're right. I did win. I had two people that super respected me, and the fact that I'm super anxious and a terrible driver and didn't say shit. You were
that's
with
why I got
you
into
were
that
drunk
car.
men
Yes.
that were at their probably worst.
And the windows were open in the pouring rain, and every time I tried to close them, Moses is like, I want the window open.
You said I could smoke. You didn't say what.
Well, also,
It was a brisket.
halfway through that drive, the owner of the limo company called me and, gave me all this, new driver. This is his first thing. It's fucked up. I can be there in, like, I can't remember what he said, like 25 minutes or something. Like, we're already halfway there.
Yeah, you're picking us up on Route 70 in the middle of the dark in a fucking lightning storm.
And
Yeah.
driving our cars home?
And it's like, he was talking. I'm just like, listen, man, I can't talk to you right now.
Sometimes
We
you gotta...
will deal with this when I get back.
Yeah, fucking A.
But I just could not. I could not. He was trying to be nice.
You're like, really nice to hear from you, but also fuck you.
Yeah.
But also go fuck yourself.
I cannot deal with the entity that is you right now.
Yeah. Hey, I'm sorry I shot your dog, but I mean, maybe I can buy you dinner tomorrow.
I'm not going to pay for it, though, because I have qualified immunity.
Yeah, that's right.
So another couple points. We are running blind to Philadelphia. We have no idea none of us has done long-term parking there. We don't know how that works.
And let's back up, because in my atrociously booked flight, I was the only stupid motherfucker
right.
that checked his fucking bag.
Yeah.
And so we had to be like, hey, we got to drop Dan off at the front of the airport so he could check his stupid bag because he's a moron.
Well, that's when I jumped out of their car
Yeah.
because Liberty Buddies.
Liberty Buddies, yeah.
Oh, that was problems. That was big problems. You're like, pull over. I got to get out with Dan. I'm like, why the fuck do you need to get out? I'm like, Dan's a grown-ass man. He can check his own bag.
Fucking Liberty Buddies.
I didn't
Like, you
I
don't
didn't
know
hear about
Liberty
that.
Buddies?
Good on you for saying that, because I had the
He
same
still got
thought.
out of the car,
Like,
though.
but
so.
good, like, grown-ass people, like, you can figure it out. I get it.
Liberty Buddies, Dan.
Well, that's what Liberty Buddies are supposed to do. I don't know if they're supposed to do it at the airport, though, but, like,
No.
you're not supposed to leave your Liberty Buddy.
Yeah.
Although you did leave me in the other car, so you
Yeah.
did leave me at one point.
Yeah, so he absolutely, he's a
He
Liberty
picks
buddy
and
when it's
chooses.
convenient
Yep,
for him.
exactly.
I think that's the definition of liberty.
Not a Liberty Buddy, though. You got to be friends to the end when you're Liberty Buddies.
I'm still
at least
here.
to the end of the Liberty.
Yeah, we did it till the end. It ended there.
All right. So we get to the airport and we drop off Dan and Moses escapes your car. Now we have to go around the loop again to figure out where the fuck to park these
That
cars.
that was a shit show. I forgot about that.
And it was confusing as hell because there's like a multi-entrance thing that like shoots you off to different parking garages because we ended up parking in different garages from each other too.
That was I think we went further.
I think you did.
Yeah, because you were asking me where to go and I was fucking clueless. So like I guided us to a stupid place.
Because we were like
leaving big problems.
Yeah, we were like in the last terminal, which I think is like Terminal D or something like that. It's like A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
And I think you guys parked in like A.
We took
did
a
park in A,
crazy long
and we
walk,
ran.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
And we
parked
ran.
in B because that's just like where we ended up and got in there, sort of figured that out, and then just had to run all the way down to the end to Terminal D. And then, I mean, all this takes time. We had to go around, park, go over like a sky bridge thing. It puts you in the wrong terminal. Then you have to go down the ground level.
Philadelphia Airport, everybody.
And we're running. We get up to Terminal D, and then Dan's still there at the counter.
yeah.
Yeah. It took you a while there.
It took me a while. They had one person working the counter.
Yeah.
I was just
For
like,
all flights out of Philadelphia.
Yeah, they've got 17 parking garages that one person checks bags.
No, that's exactly what was going on there.
I was so mad. It's like, dude, why? Why did you check this bag?
Yeah,
Because I wasn't paying attention when I bought the freaking flight.
I did some American cocaine before I even got to Colombia.
Is that true? This is the first I'm hearing
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so like Kristina and I are like just on momentum at this point. We see Dan still at the counter. We just run right past him.
Yeah.
Right into security.
It's every man for himself.
No, it's essentially kind of like what we did. They're grown people. They can figure it out.
Oh.
I think we were the first to arrive at our departure place. Fortunately, we got through security pretty quick.
Yeah. It was an
Security
odd
was
hour.
pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a red-eye flight. So,
Yeah. So we got there, and then slowly our other compatriots started to show up.
Yeah. Bummed out and haggard.
Yeah.
I remember Moses and I think we had beaten you and Nick to
Even the
yeah.
what do you call it? Pre-boarding and
When I checked in and got the boarding pass and all that, and then got into the line. Where the hell are they?
We went to and it's my fault. We went to the wrong parking garage.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Isn't
That feels good. That
Drink
feels
that
really
in.
Dan,
Every
did you
time-
record that?
Every time our relationship has almost ended, it's been a parking driving situation. Which I mean,
It's
I guess
the
that's a
worst.
win in a way. It's kind of a win.
I mean, that's what a relationship
We're just
is.
talking
isn't
about
it?
it, and I'm having doubts right now.
But you're like, I don't know where to go. You choose. And then I'm like, okay, then I choose. And he's like, this is wrong. And I'm like, bitch, you told me to choose.
Wow, that's messed up.
Yeah. That's what it is. It's a little thing called gaslighting.
Oh, I'm familiar.
He actually, Justin wanted us to wait for everybody, and I'm like, no.
Oh, yeah.
Park and run.
Yep.
That's our plan. We're gonna park and then we're gonna fucking run. I don't care about
I respect
what
that.
everybody else has to do because everybody's an adult. So we're gonna park and we're gonna fucking run. We can wait for everybody at the gate, and that's exactly what we
Yeah.
did. I have my own anxiety issues, but to be fair, Justin wanted to wait for everybody, and so that's why we met everybody at the
I
gate.
was feeling hella responsible for the whole situation.
I know that at one point when we got up to like the area where presumably we would find our friends, I had that mentality of like, it's probably part of the reason that we were so late to everything. Because I was like, we need to wait for them, which goes to show you what a stupid person I am, that I thought that somehow we would have been the first there, despite parking on the opposite side of Philadelphia.
We all eventually made it to our gate. I think we all essentially... It's funny, too, because like all that running, and we ended up just standing there for like a half hour.
Yeah. We were remarkably on time.
It was a whole lot of hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Well, it's also, too, because we were all like, thinking like, oh, what if we run into something? Like anything could happen on it.
Yeah, I will say that even though like it all worked out, I was very anxious about like getting there on time and missing the flight because obviously like if you miss your flight, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah,
you know, it's like a real fucking problem that is not easily solvable.
It is like it's a lot of work to fix it, and it is fixable, but it's just so much work you now have on your hands.
You lose a day. Yeah, you lose a whole day. So I was of that mentality because I've missed a flight before in like the stupidest of ways, you know, and so like that was my primary concern with this. So getting there early and you know after all of that fucking rigmarole and then being a half an hour early is like to me that was like the best case scenario that could have happened at that point.
It was like an absolute like adrenaline dump.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. By the time we got to the fucking terminal, I felt like I just kicked heroin. It's just wow.
But then you get to crash too.
Yeah.
Because I remember being so freaking tired when we actually got onto the plane, and then I had the rush of horror. Like, you can't sleep on planes, Dan.
Yeah.
Have fun, because you're gonna be up for like 36 hours.
Yeah, I'm the same way. There was no sleeping on those planes for me.
No, that
yeah,
was
you
easy.
don't really sleep on planes either, Pedro. But you were so wasted that you passed right out, and I was like, "This is great.
Yeah.
I love this."
It
For
was
you.
wonderful for us both.
Yeah, it was great.
I've never slept on that flight. I've taken that exact flight to Colombia many times, and I've never slept on it. But there was just the right amount, 4 bottles of whiskey in my bloodstream, that I was just able to just like pass out cold. It was glorious.
You should have had some of those edibles that I slipped you.
Yeah. It sounds like it did.
Sounds like
All right, so we're on the plane. I don't think we have any problems when we were on the flight so much.
No, it was a
Smooth
fairly
flight.
standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Spirit. We did a layover, right?
We
Yes.
did a layover in
Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, yeah.
We'll never do a layover again.
Yeah. If you're gonna do a layover, though, Fort Lauderdale is very nice. The Windy City, they call it.
I'm giving you the stink eye right now.
No, I see it. Yeah, we're
That
locked
was a
right
terrible
now.
layover.
We're locked.
Yeah, it could be worse. It could be O'Hare, which is like, hey, you have 17 minutes to travel 35 miles
Yeah.
in this airport. So
Yeah.
it could have been much worse. I do tend to agree with you. That's not the greatest airport.
Fort Lauderdale is a shitty place
Yeah.
in general.
I don't really mind layovers, but we just had too much time.
There was also that terrible noise. Do we not recall that terrible noise?
Can you refresh my memory about this terrible noise?
In the
Uh-oh,
airport?
it was all in her head.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
When you guys were at the bar, I tend not to drink and travel because I have issues with car sickness or motion sickness. And so we all like waited to get on the plane. And while waiting to get on the plane, when it was time to get on the plane, we had to wait and then hear a terrible noise.
Oh, I vaguely
Do you not-
remember this now.
Do you not remember? Also, I had to deal with drunk Pedro,
Yeah.
and that was also terrible.
I am the best.
Oh, yeah. So like, all right. So on that layover, like, we got there. We had to wait a little bit for like the bar type thing to open.
Yeah.
I know like half the party like hung out there, and it was getting very crowded where we were.
Yeah.
Like incredibly crowded. Like I guess like, this flight we were about to get on was booked to the nines, fully maxed out. You guys had a couple drinks. We waited, and we get into boarding, and they were like using this new system. They had to take your picture,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right.
Oh yeah. I
and
forgot
like
about
my
that.
pictures like didn't match my passport, so it was like this weird thing. I had to stand off to the side with a bunch of other people who were.
Yeah.
I did
Whose
forget
faces
about
don't look
that.
like their faces
Yeah.
for some reason.
It was very bizarre, and like that was raising my anger level once again.
I just, on a little side note to that, and this is just a general like airport criticism these days. I don't know how the quality of their speaker system has actually reduced over time. Like all the other technology has gone up. Like we talk about AI and shit now, but it's like at the airport, it used to be that I could hear things over the speaker system, and now it's just.
I blame the humanity.
Yeah, is that what
Yeah.
it is?
People have just got dumber.
They were actually calling our names, and we couldn't really understand.
yeah, that's what
And
it
that's
was.
when we got up to the point where we were like giving them our information, and then we have to get pulled over to the side.
Yeah.
Yet, like, I vaguely remember hearing parts of my name, parts of your name, parts
Yeah.
of her name, but like not really understanding, like, oh, like they're asking us to pull aside. Yet, like, to Justin's point, there's this new technology and they want us to do X, Y, and Z, but yet we can't even hear our own names being
I
called.
do, I do
They
remember
put all the
this.
money into the
Ironic,
facial
yeah.
recognition shit.
I remember this, and I remember I heard the last name Pizza, and then I remember embarrassing moment for me. I looked at him and I was like, "Oh my god, somebody has the same last name as me." I was like, "How cool is that?" And he's like, No, you have to go up there. And I'm like, "Oh, it's me?"
What are the odds?
I'm like, "There's no other pizzas in here? How lame is that?"
Just that Sabaro family.
These 2 flights, they're not like long flights. They're like a couple hours.
Yeah, each one is like 3 hours, 2.5.
And it was Spirit. So it's like you're getting like the bare minimum.
Here's an egg crate. Good luck.
Well, you get an
Fly.
egg crate, and that's when you're flying first class.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
I remember holding
upgraded.
on to a cable.
I upgraded.
It's windy out there.
Well, it was the Windy City of Fort Lauderdale.
Oh my goodness.
Spirit Airline is like taking the bus to New York, but it's a plane.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? It's very astute.
Dan,
Yeah.
that's very
Yeah.
that's
Oh.
spot
Dead
on.
on, Dan.
You
That's
are the
spot
Mark
on.
Twain of our fucking day.
Because they have like fully maximized the amount of seats that they can cram in
Yeah.
there. And like they're not even good seats. They are like shitty bus seats.
There's not even a first class on for.
There's
Spirit.
not even a pilot.
Well, I was saying,
They
like,
made room for seats.
imagine spending that much money. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be at the front of the plane. It's like, yeah, you're gonna get off the plane, but it's not. It's the same fucking
Not
thing
in
as
the
you're
way
in the
you
back of
like.
the plane.
That is the funny thing, because you can pay for supposedly better seats on that plane, and they're not that much
That's
better.
why I pay the extra $50 so that I can have the seat in the wheel well.
No.
And then as soon as it lands, as long as it doesn't grind you to pieces, you just hop right out.
Oh, I
Walk
do
across
the same
tarmac.
thing, but I go in the cabin, but they put some heroin underneath the seat.
Wow, that
Instead of the
escalated
safety
so quickly. Not cocaine though, even though we're flying to Colombia.
I'm very nervous on flights.
I was just, can I get a cigarette from you? I really need it
You
after
just
that.
asked for a lighter.
Yeah, I know I did. But here we are.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
on
there it
Spirit
is.
they just call the seats in the front of the plane the big seat. That's their like
that may be the
signature.
case.
And that is just the lamest fucking thing I've ever heard. That's all that you could come up with. The big seat.
Well, it's
That's
so
it.
funny, and it's like
Be glad you have a seat.
if you have like the app thing, whatever, for like your tickets and whatever, like they're constantly bombarding you, trying to get you
Yeah,
to like
nonstop.
upgrade.
yeah.
And it's like when you actually see what that upgrade is literally just the same thing, except for more forward. in
Except
the
you get to
plane.
pay
Yes.
more for it.
And it's like $130
Yeah.
for like the next level up
If
from
it-
garbage.
If it was like a reasonable price, then sure. Like I would actually do that. If they were like $10 and you can move up one
Sure.
row, I would think about that.
Yeah.
Get out of the plane a little
No,
bit
that'd be
faster.
great outside of like flying in a lawn dart.
I had to really think about that.
Yeah, that would sound like an upgrade, but
But you're absolutely right. I have done it on trips before where it hasn't been like that expensive, but to get a little more legroom, say you had like a long trip and you just want a little bit of comfort.
Yeah.
And yeah, you spend like $25 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
an amount of money that you can like reasonably kind of like parlay off,
Right.
sort of thing.
Right.
You know. But no, you're talking about like $100 plus.
Yeah.
And you're not getting anything better. Like it's like and
Sometimes you
obviously,
lose.
I'm flying with my lady, so I bought both of our tickets, and now it's $200, and neither one of us wins in any way because you're still on a Spirit airplane. Like if you could like upgrade to another airline, like you buy your tickets at Spirit and then spend like $100 and you get to fly something real, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
and you also lost your seat.
That's, yeah.
One of you was sitting on
Yeah.
somebody's lap.
Well, no, it was an egg crate in the first place. So.
yeah, but somebody's sitting on a lap.
Yeah.
This would be an interesting discussion, I think, for maybe another podcast. But like, how much would you pay, and which airline would you get? Because I think that depends on preference. Like, I kind of hold Southwest to a higher esteem because they gave me free beers one time.
Oh,
Ah.
I can see that.
But that's it. That's all I got.
That's why I'm about Japan Air.
Well, that's fucking great. Yeah, they fucking do it right. I mean, I'll say this to get to Colombia, because I looked up all of those tickets. I think before anybody else. And
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah, no, you were
time.
leading the charge on that.
All of the other airlines, like I hate Spirit, but I will say that all of the other ones, if you pay $600 to Spirit, you're going to spend $1,200.
It's absolutely, you're absolutely
And
right.
it is better with the other ones, but not much better.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just, everything about it is just so outrageous.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on a rant about how shitty it is to fly. Let's segue out of this.
I feel like the percentages raise in your if you don't take Spirit.
How, what do you mean?
The percentages rise of you making your destination.
Oh, yeah, if you're not flying Spirit, that's
Yeah.
probably
And,
true.
and like, yeah, I think most people that travel know, like, you know what Spirit is.
Yeah.
You know what it is. And like, it is generally like the affordable option.
Yeah.
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 Aren't they out
And-
of business now?
No.
No.
No, they're like close to bankruptcy or something like that.
I know they took one of their
took
their crew
AC out.
out of Atlantic City.
Yeah.
Well, no,
yeah.
they're still flying out of Atlantic City.
Oh no, they just took their home crew out
Oh,
of there.
home crew.
Yeah,
Oh, is
okay.
that what-
that was a big confusion about that because it was got passed around the internet. It's like no, they
I think
they have
they're
hubs
still there.
Yeah.
where they keep crews.
yeah.
Just Atlantic City is just not a hub for them anymore.
Well, there was also too like it was really misleading how they were reporting that too, is because they were like, oh, we'll give you a shuttle so you can you can still park in Atlantic City, but we'll give you a shuttle all the way to Philadelphia. And I'm like, I'll just go to Philadelphia. What the fuck sense does that make?
Can I just get the plane?
No, my aunt a little while ago got stuck in that situation where she had to be, it wasn't intentional, but had to be shuttled from Atlantic City Airport to Philadelphia for a flight.
Goodness gracious.
That's still a long trip. Like, it's not terribly far geographically, but it's
an
still
hour-
a good
it's
hour and a
over
half.
an hour.
Yeah.
It's over
It'll
an
put
hour.
it'll put a wrench in your fucking plans.
Especially if you already are traveling and it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if I was ever on that shuttle, I would try to see if I could hang myself somehow on the bus. Like, oh, we got like an hour and a half. We'll be fine.
Yeah, I can make this work.
That's why before you get onto those shuttles, they check you for rope and razor blades.
Well, they don't check you for belts.
No, it's true. Yeah.
And Robin Williams my way out of this.
You just gotta want it, Dan.
Dan's in there gnawing at the seat cover, trying to pull it in the
It's like,
shreds.
is that a seatbelt I see? I can hang myself with that.
In other news, spirit-related suicides are way up.
This is on the bus.
Yeah, because if there's anything that I don't want to do is ride the bus to an airport
Yeah.
To get on a Spirit.
to get on a Spirit. Yeah, which is a bus. All right, so I think we're pretty straight.
Yeah.
With, traveling there. So we finally get to Colombia.
Yeah, we touched down. We made it. Hooray.
Oh, we did go there.
It was actually remarkably easy getting through that airport, at least coming out of it.
Pretty quick.
Yeah,
Pretty quick.
Pretty
Not
quick.
bad.
Like not big. Yeah, as you said.
Cartagena Airport is normally pretty straightforward.
It's
There's
much
efficient.
nicer now
yeah.
than
They,
the early days.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's become more of a destination now. So it's not as easy as it used to be. The lines, I noticed this. It was actually the trip that I went on right before we went. So it was the year prior. And I did notice, I said this to my family there, and to put it in their vernacular, I was like, my God, I was at this airport for almost an hour. There's so many fucking gringos on the line.
Yeah.
Obviously, I am one of said gringos, half a gringo anyways. And they said, yeah, because of the exchange rate, everything that happened over the past few years with inflation and everything like that. So there's a lot of Americans that are going there now. So it used to be that I would always go and I would be right through the line. Like nobody was there, So it's like a couple of Europeans, me, and then like proper Colombian citizens who were coming back from seeing their families in the United States. And then it was the year prior to our most recent visit, the one that we're discussing. And all of a sudden I'm there and it's like, and I'm just like in a line of fucking like white people from America. And it was like upsetting for me because I felt because I don't want to be that person. Like I'm not trying to be that guy. And now there's nothing to differentiate me because my Spanish sucks. But yeah, it's better than an American airport for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
But there is much more of a wait than there used to be. I'll say that. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a line getting at it.
But it wasn't
Yeah,
that
it wasn't
bad.
terrible. It was
Yeah.
just like getting on a roller coaster.
It was like one of those things where it seemed like 3 planes landed around the same time.
Yeah.
I've stood in worse lines just to get a rental car in Orlando.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
When Christina and I
Perspective.
went to Amsterdam, we were in a much smaller line that took like 3 times the amount of time.
Yeah.
I also noticed that like a quarter of the people on that line had masks on. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but
I did
not
I
notice.
was looking.
we were chatting about that,
Yeah.
and I was just so.
It's like Americans
so
who go there to
confused.
like bang Colombian hookers and do
Yeah.
coke from
Oh.
someone that they've never met before, but God forbid they breathe in some.
I thought they were protecting their nose for all the cocaine they're going to do.
Yeah.
You don't want to blow it on some fucking pollen.
You're putting your nose in the dugout.
Yeah, after a game, you ice and heat.
Oh my! I'm moving on from what you're saying, Moses.
Cocaine is a sport.
Oh my goodness. Cartagena Airport's really kind of cool in some ways because it's one of those situations where you have to come down the staircase on the planes outside on the tarmac.
Yeah, they don't have whatever those are called, like that terminal. thing.
Yeah, like gates.
I'm not going to remember what it's called.
Yeah.
I used to know what it is, but I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
So you don't have the thing that comes and connects to the side.
It's a mobile hallway
Yeah,
that gets
yeah.
you from the terminal
Yeah.
to the airplane.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to walk out onto the tarmac and
Yeah.
then walk up a flight of stairs.
Yep. I mean, we get there. It's hot as balls.
Yeah.
I mean, especially coming because
Off of the plane, it's like kind of just the temperature shock.
yeah, and but I mean, you can tell it's beautiful, and especially too, like when you're flying in, it's like you can just kind of, you're flying over like Cartagena proper and
you
like
see the
Boca Grande and
beaches.
stuff. You see everything. It's real nice. It's real pretty. And you get out and like, yeah, you're on a tarmac, but like you can see kind of like the vegetation and stuff around it. And it's a very nice looking airport.
Yeah, they do a great job.
Yeah.
There. Yeah.
So we leave the airport and we got on the bus. And
boy.
you are super excited to practice your Spanish.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I always am.
And everyone files into the back. I'm sitting right next to you. And the first thing that happens with the people that are driving this bus is they offer you cocaine.
Yeah, that's pretty much par for the course.
It's kind of become tradition.
Yeah. Everyone, and this is this is like a foreshadowing of the entirety of the trip. Everyone will offer you cocaine.
Yes.
The pilot of the plane will like exit you and offer you cocaine. The police officer that stops you to check to see if you have cocaine will offer you cocaine.
Look a little low on your stash there.
Yeah, everyone, like, cocaine is basically just free there for local people because obviously, like, the organizations that deal in this commodity, sometimes they just like need to get rid of it because they're just like they have too much, and so it ends up like in the greater population. And then they recognize white people, fucking, American gringos, and they can sell it to you for next to nothing.
Yeah.
So it's a very easy trade because, I mean, 9 times out of 10, if you offer somebody cocaine, the answer is yes. The answer is pretty much always yes.
Spirit opted out of peanuts for cocaine bags on this particular flight.
Now, that's why the pilot gives it to you after the flight because you don't
know why you
give
think there's a pilot. Spirit.
So kind of one of the fun things is like after you get out of the airport, now you have all these taxi drivers jockeying for your business.
Oh,
Yeah.
Every time I've gone, it's always been an adventure. And this time around, we got like, because we had 6 people, so we got like one of these mid-sized bus van things.
2 drivers.
Yeah, two drivers.
One to sell the cocaine, the other to drive.
Yeah.
You're right. And I was there. I'm just like, that makes no sense.
No, it doesn't need to make sense.
Who
It's
was I
Colombia.
sitting in the back seat with? Was it you, Moses?
Maybe.
I was throwing a little
I had the
shade your way,
window.
Peter, because you were talking in such a like you had pent up Spanish in you that you were just like shooting out.
He does that.
I noticed that too.
He does that.
I do. It's true.
Yeah.
I deserve this criticism.
No, and like take that criticism, but like we relied on you on this trip a lot, so like take it in stride.
I'll take it all in stride.
But like, I think I said to Moses, I'm like, why is he talking like Borat speaking Spanish?
And that's when I heard it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be awesome.
Cocaína muy bien.
I was just excited when I was able to understand you. It's like I was able to like laugh when you guys were laughing. Like,
Yeah.
I understood certain things, and I was like, oh wow, I know more Spanish than I thought I did.
Despite my terrible awkwardness with it, I do occasionally.
You were just very
manage to pull-
excited.
Yeah. It's an awkward thing.
Yeah, it's like word vomit for you. It's like
That's
all
really
he
my whole
does.
life.
Yeah, that's all he does is word vomit.
Yeah. Here we are.
So they actually eventually take us to the to our Airbnb because
Yep.
Justin, you had booked an Airbnb. It was quite lovely.
Very beautiful.
You want to take us through the booking the Airbnb? And
Yes.
The old bookings.
bookings.
Like on trips past, so like basically you have the old city, which is like it's old, walled off, historic, and then you have like Boca Grande, which is like the built up modern, more modern.
If I may interject there,
Yeah.
essentially, I think the way to look at it is that the quote unquote old city is the equivalent of like a downtown area. And then places like Boca Grande and what have you tend to be, as you said, they're just like basically they're the suburbs of it, but they're built up
Yes.
in the same way as like urban suburbs get built up in the United States.
Exactly right. It's a lot of like tall apartment buildings and stuff like now.
Yeah, the old city is not, they're not allowed to really change those structures.
Right.
So it tends to just be very old fashioned.
Yeah, a lot of the old historic buildings are still there and everything. And in fact, our Airbnb was one of these old homes.
Yeah.
Oh.
So like we've always kind of in years past, we've typically stayed in like Boca Grande and always like walked over to the old city, which isn't that big of a deal, like a half hour or so walk. Yeah, not that big of a deal. But this time, I'm like, you know what? Let's stay right in the middle of it this time, right in the middle of the old city. And like, I searched around for a bunch of different places and was committed to some places that I'm glad fell through because the place that I ended up getting, I think, was pretty prime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For our needs. It was
That place was fucking beautiful.
it was gorgeous.
Yeah, I wasn't shown any like really like photos beforehand. I feel like I think Pete showed me a photo probably like once, and sorry, Pedro. No disrespect.
Except for all of
Está
it.
bien. No preocupaciones.
But yeah, it was. I was like shell shocked when I first walked in there. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, it was older home. So a lot of these older homes, it's kind of like open air in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
They were all built before air conditioning or
Yes.
anything like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, they tended to always be built out of concrete and more or less contiguous.
Yeah.
There's no faux walls. Or
No,
anything.
no. It's
Those-
solid structure.
Those stairs were fucking real as fuck.
Oh yeah, those were super compact. I like for the first time, my frame was like, oh my god, this is convenient for me, but no one else.
And it's all fucking slippery.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I hope you're not sweating in this heat because you might slip.
And if you're
Or too
drunk,
drunk,
and
yeah.
drunk and sweating, fucking forget it.
For the listeners, I'm going to try to describe this as best I can. So you walk in on the ground floor. You walk into like a fairly sizable like living area, couches and chairs, things of that nature. You walk a little further in. There's a small kitchen with a little like dinette type thing on it, and then there was 2 bedrooms on the first floor, I believe.
With a hallway.
Yes,
With a hallway,
I
with a
had
hallway.
the one.
Yeah.
The
I
hallway
think you guys
had-
had the other.
Oh yeah.
Open
So yeah.
space.
So at this point, you're walking through the open air area. You can see the sky
Yeah.
in the middle.
It's
of the
very,
building.
and again, for the listeners, it's very typical that in these old haciendas, once again, before air conditioning,
Yeah.
that your main area, that lower floor, would have a straight view of the sky.
Yeah.
No glass or anything like that. That's very typical there. Oftentimes you'll see trees growing in there that are, 500 years old from when the city was initially built.
Right.
And it was usually just about keeping the house cool and giving the water a place to go.
Yeah. And then the stairs.
Yep. The spiral stairs.
These are like, they're not wood stairs. They're built into the structure of the house.
That are
Yeah.
part of the concrete of the
They're-
house.
yeah.
Yeah, you can't change them.
And they are small, tight, and twisting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everything's white. It's all like whitewashed.
Yeah, it's all painted white because the sun is so fucking intense that if you painted it
Yeah.
black, you'd burn yourself.
Yeah.
So you have to paint it white, which means that the reverse aspect of that is that
You
it's
can't
fucking
see what
blinding.
you're walking
Yeah.
on.
And obviously when these things were built, I mean, obviously it's fucking Spanish people, so they were drinking, but probably not as much as a bunch of gringos on vacation.
Right.
So like when you're trying to walk up these stairs in the morning to see if your lady or your friends are at the pool, it is a really alarming situation.
Yeah.
Maybe life or death.
By the way, there was a pool at the very top of the Airbnb.
was.
Yeah.
And that's where the Super Soak Squad comes in.
yeah.
Yeah, so basically there was a second floor that's not as big as the first floor. It has the open area in the middle. There was 2 bedrooms on that floor, I believe.
Yeah.
And then if you went up another set of twisty stairs to the roof, essentially,
Those are really twisty.
there was a pool.
Those were
We had a
actually
pool on
yeah.
the top of this
Yeah.
this building. A small pool.
Yeah, small
Yeah.
pool. Really more of like a jacuzzi hot tub type situation.
Yeah.
Although you couldn't get the sun
didn't
made the
do
water
that.
hot.
Yeah. Yeah. The sun makes everything hot.
Oh, go ahead, Nicolette.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have a core memory of Moses eating a pork chop in the pool.
Yeah.
I had a pork chop.
I would not
In
put
the
it past
pool.
you.
That sounds really on brand.
Well,
Actually,
if I'm
jealous.
gonna have a pork chop, it's gonna be in a pool, obviously.
A lot of things are a blur, but the pork chop in a pool is like a core memory for
I
me.
wish I had
I could
that.
see where that stands out.
I could go for that pork chop right now.
So
You're
you,
not in the pool.
so you guys, Pedro and Nick, you were right by the spiral staircase. You were like
Correct.
in a little,
Yeah.
other end of that.
We had the fancy bedroom.
Yeah, you had the fancy bedroom, and then I was parked all the way at the end, the most secluded bedroom. in
You
the
really
entire-
were like off in your own way. There was like mornings that I woke up and I'm like, Dan's really got it made out here. I just stared at your bedroom door. Like maybe at some moment we could have shared like a glimpse into each other's eyes. Never happened though. That door stayed shut.
I thought Justin and I had the best bedroom. I was a little nervous when he told me that like the Airbnb didn't have air conditioning with the exception of the bedrooms.
Yeah.
Because
The
like I
mini
said,
splits.
I'm not great with heat.
Yeah. But it was nice though, right?
but-
Yeah.
But
It was.
honestly, I absolutely loved the
Yeah.
open concept.
Yeah.
It was so nice.
Yeah.
But also, we didn't have to go up any windy stairs.
That was
We
the
were on
best
the
part.
bottom
Yeah.
floor, and I immediately claimed it. Moses, I think you also had a bedroom on the bottom too, so it was nice for
Yeah,
us.
I was just slightly closer to the bathroom on the bottom floor than you guys. I
Yeah.
think you had your own.
We had
so
our
it
own,
didn't
so it
matter.
didn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, you know what, going up the windies, going down those spiral staircase, that was the worst for me. Like going up, I was like, no, I can do this. Going down, I was like, just don't fall and break your tailbone in front of your friends.
That was my primary concern walking down those stairs. Walking up, you're right. I actually agree with you. Walking up, like I felt like I just keep my hand over here. I keep like the drink in my left hand. And like I just do it like the Conquistadora did, you know? And then everything's solid. But walking down, and it's like, mind you, like I wasn't even swimming in that pool. But walking down it, I was like, it's so slippery everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't see in front of myself, and there's nowhere to grip anything. So it was just like I just felt like a fucking like old man, you know. Just like I had to take this really slow. But also like, yeah, as I am. I'm definitely getting up there in the years. But what I will say is that my sentiment, and this does allude to the old man thing. It's that I thought to myself multiple times. I was like, if I do slip, this isn't a broken tailbone. This is a much more serious situation, and none of you speak Spanish, so it might be a death sentence.
I felt afraid, or I felt wary walking up those stairs, but going down them after getting out of the pool,
Well,
I
that's
felt
the thing.
afraid.
The pool, you're getting out of the pool and you're wet.
Yeah.
And these stairs, like, there's no hard edges on anything. Everything's rounded.
Yeah. It's glossy enamel. So, yeah.
It's just like you're just sliding.
Yeah. You're just walking on a mirror.
Yeah.
Looking into a mirror in the intense sun of the equator.
So I think for the first few days that we were there, we kind of took it a little easy, especially on that first day that we were there.
Yes.
We flew in, you're like, everyone's exhausted. It is fucking hot. And I was like, no. What can we do with like the minimal amount of effort to do it? We ran into our friends that also went on this trip with us.
Oh, yeah.
Katie and Archie. They actually ran into us like in the middle of like the street.
It was bizarre.
Yeah.
Katie,
I'm like,
Katie
who has
almost-
the GPS tracker on them that they were able to find us in
when
the
they
middle?
found us, Katie almost RKO'd me
Yeah.
right in the middle of the street. Like, I don't know how they found us, and that would have hurt.
I think she had like some sort of GPS thing going. I don't know how they fucking found us.
Oh,
Like,
I
just-
think that they had my location.
Oh, they had your
I
location?
think
Oh.
that's a thing that they asked me for, and I was like, sure.
We had a mole the entire time.
It all makes sense.
Wow.
Especially because the streets, like that was something that I had recalled, like first getting to Colombia. We were all just like walking in the streets, and I was very much so like, I don't know the rules. And like Justin having been there, was like, don't worry, you're gonna get used to it.
Yeah.
And like sure enough, 2-3 days in, I was like, oh yeah, like I get it.
Yeah.
It's like everything is super, super narrow. It's like you're walking in a what seems to be like there's no cars coming through, but then sure enough, you gotta pay attention
It's a random
because
car. Yeah.
something's
They just honk
behind
at
you and
you.
you gotta just like move to the side. And everybody seems to understand that this
Yeah.
is a thing.
You just go
But
with
it's
the
so
flow.
narrow you don't even think a car can like
Yeah,
fit.
and they're not stopping for you.
No.
They're like,
Yeah.
you're a tourist and you're in the road. They're like, we'll run you over.
Like pay
I don't
attention.
think
It's like
I'm-
pay attention.
yeah.
I don't think they care if you're a tourist or not.
It's also like there's a lot of people
Yeah.
in the streets too. There's people with carts. There's people with horses.
Yeah.
There's a lot of horses.
Yeah.
The old city is packed.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like a weekend and all the tourists are out.
Well, that's absolutely
Everybody's
kind
trying
of
to
like
make money. Yeah.
what we were coming into.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, also like going back to where we were staying, right across the street from us was this very modern mall that was made out of, and I'm sure Pedro can give us a little backstory on this, out of an old bullfighting arena.
That was a beautiful place. Like,
So that's the first and only mall in Cartagena, and the very first times that I ever went there, that mall did not exist, but it was indeed a bullfighting arena. So basically made out of giant fucking logs that they pulled out of the Amazon forest. When I first went there, the first several times that I went there with my father, he would tell us like these, myself and my sister, he would tell us these like I don't know, grandiose tales, which were apparently very legitimate, but just seemed so much larger than life, of, him like sneaking out of school and would go over there. And it was, and we're talking about like the 1940s.
Right.
So there was like, proper bullfighting going on. I actually had this like in-depth conversation with him once because my mother did not share his passion for bullfighting. And so she viewed it as like a cruel thing. And I remembered as a child, I was like at that bull ring, you know, that you seem to venerate so much. You know, what was going on? And he's like, oh yeah, you know, we would just go out there and watch the bulls. You know, they would like shoot him with like a little arrow, but it's nothing. It's just like a prick. And then like, you know, and over time I learned that it was indeed killing bulls. You know, it was very much so what it was. But so it sat abandoned for a very long period of time. Decades.
I remember
Really?
being on one of the trips with your father before it was made into a mall, when it was just kind of the remnants.
Yeah, it was an abandoned part of the city.
Yeah,
but close to, it was basically like in close proximity to the part of the city. It was becoming increasingly valuable.
Yes.
You have a lot of Europeans and a lot of Americans with big money for Colombia. And they wanted to be in the heart of the city. There was no more landscape available for them to do that. And so all of a sudden, this old bullfighting ring became a high-valued property.
Yeah.
And so they used the original framework to build it into a mall, which is the opposite of everything that I was ever told about this place. Because, like, my dad, you know, grew up pretty poor. And so this was like a thing that poor people did. You know, you would go and watch, like, well, let's be honest, a bull get murdered, you know, for fun. And then it sat derelict because the goal was to get poor people out of this area, so on and so forth. And then it was rebuilt into a mall, something that Colombia did not have previously. And the mall is it's very nice, but it's like, it's very ostentatious.
Yeah.
It's an
doesn't
American.
make sense where it is.
It's entirely about feeding that wealthy tourist population.
That area that we did stay in looked very posh. Like, I don't know what it was before, but it was clear, like, it wasn't lost on me that it's kind of that like whitewashed or gentrified in a sense.
The thing to be aware of with it, and like, Justin, you know this because we've been there before and you study these things, but we went over this before, like all of us went. It's that Colombia, unlike the United States, you know, politics aside, is that they don't really have a middle class.
Right.
They have an upper class for sure, and then they have a very, very small middle class. That's like where my family is over there. And then there's a very, very large poor population. And so the city was a poor city for a long time, and then just recently it began to change. And so that's why you see that mall there. So that's favoring not just like American tourists, so-called gringos and such like that, but it's people who come in from the capital of Colombia, you know, so they're like related to politicians or business owners and things like that. So they would basically, like, those people would be the equivalent of like our upper middle class, right? That's how much money they've got, you know, hundreds of thousands in the bank, maybe some millions. They're certainly not Elon Musk level because that doesn't exist in Colombia, but that's what this mall is for. And you go there and it's like pretty expensive even for ourselves being Americans.
It was quite expensive.
Yeah, which is kind of unheard of because it's like we go and get meals there for like $2, right? You know,
we got a beer there at the beginning of that trip, me and Dan, and I don't know what I feel like it cost like $5 because I don't think we had exchanged yet.
Oh yeah,
like I don't know if we got ripped off or
you
or
got
what
ripped off, yeah,
or
what you paid $5 for a beer, yeah.
Well, that's what I pay here.
Yeah. Well, that's not what you pay there.
But to your point, though, Pete, when we were there was actually, like, I think it was maybe the second night, maybe the third night that we were there, when we went out to dinner, there was an actual protest going on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That was about the real estate there.
Mm-hmm.
So for the past several years, and it was, my dad died like a little bit over 10 years ago, but he was like right around the time that happened, he had purchased property there. You know, not his first residence there, obviously, but it was like we spoke about that at length, and I spoke to my family there as well. They actually had to move out of the proper city. They used to live in Boca Grande, and they had to move out to the suburbs where we went, Mr. Justin. It's basically a scenario where you have so many Americans and Europeans moving in. And the bottom line is that there, you can, with $300,000, you can buy a mansion that would cost you well over $1 million here in the States,
Easy.
in New Jersey at least. And so you've got a lot of people who are going there and doing that. And sometimes they're just buying them just, you know, to have them. You know, they think that it's going to, you know, increase in price. And maybe they go to Colombia once in a while. But for the local people, that shuts them out of the market. And so, like, even for my family there, where they're well off for Colombia, they cannot compete with even like basically like my family, they've got multiple incomes and do very well in Colombia. They can't compete with like a single dentist in the United States. That means that they can't buy that property there, so they had to move about what would you call it, maybe 20 minutes outside
I'd say
the
about
city?
20 minutes.
Yeah, through a rural jungly area, not the ideal place that they wanted to live. But that protest was all about that. It was about that the real people who were working in that city, and you see similar things here in the States, where it's that they genuinely like my family there, they can commute back into the city. They have cars, but most of the people who are doing the actual work in that city, they don't own a car. They can't just drive back and forth to some suburb. They have to live in a walking distance or within bus travel that's affordable for them. The buses don't really leave the city.
Not really.
So
I didn't see too much public transit there.
This is how you can observe the ways in which Colombia is still somewhat of certainly it's a developing country, but in many ways it's what we used to call a third world country. It's that the local public transportation that they have, which is really like it's shitty buses. They've improved upon them over the years, but they're shitty fucking buses. You pack in, you stand up in them, and those people get driven back up to hillsides where there's not really proper housing. By proper, I mean that they like have to build it out of scrap. So it's like there's no code or anything like that. It's just not an ideal situation. No. You wouldn't want somebody that you cared about to be living there.
Like a shanty town?
It's what we would call a shanty town, yes. There, it's always been the case that it's like that. And the problem exists there that they're not even able to live in those places anymore, because those, like where these shanty towns are on the sides of hills and whatnot, that the whole reason they're there is that they're prone to landslides. Yeah. So they don't, they're not driving pilings into the ground, they're just living on a hillside. So like it's a dangerous area to live, but that's the only place that they have. And now you have, the American, the European, they go in and they go, well, no problem. I can afford, $300,000 to drive some pilings into the ground. So you can get the fuck out. And I live here now. And now that person has nowhere to go. Yeah. And that's what those protests were really all about. And I do very much so sympathize with it. And likewise, you don't really, just like every city in the world, if you don't have people to do your, what we would call menial work, then you don't have a city anymore. So that's the problem that they're facing. Basically, the short story long of it is that the prices have just skyrocketed so much. While we deal with inflation here, it's so much more there. And people just can't even afford to live at all, which is a real shame. But yeah, that's basically the gist of it.
I remember that because we were going to a restaurant, and that was actually where we had, like, first of all, I was like flabbergasted by the denim napkins. And then Justin, you and I got, what was it, the oxtail there? And that was fucking great. Archie ordered dessert.
Oh my God.
And that brownie, for whatever reason, made me so angry that it was like, oh, this is really good. And
that was at that place at the square?
It was delicious.
Yeah. It was quite delightful. And I was actually like, how do you like it? And I'm like, I love it.
We ended up there because we were at another bar quite close to it, and we were looking for a place to get lychee martinis.
Oh, right, the martinis that you wanted to get from visiting your father.
Because that's what we got when we were down there. Yeah, with my dad.
So we went to this place. I can't remember. It was like Don Juan or something like that. I can't remember what it was called.
It had like a Hell's Kitchen kind of vibe to it, but it was small.
It was a very modern.
The bar that we pre-gamed at?
The one that we got, like, I remember the chairs being uneven, and we got a whole bunch of food. It was right after we met up with Archie and.
Oh, no! That's a different place.
Oh, the one after that.
No. Yeah, we were talking like the place we're talking about with the denim napkins was, I don't know, night 2 or night 3. I can't remember. The place you're talking about, which was very nice. I don't have anything to say about it.
Yeah. It was,
I remember I was having stomach issues. Nick, you and I were both having stomach issues pretty much that first run of the trip. And I was like, no, I'm not going to take any of the medication. What I need is a freaking mojito. Yeah. The mint will cure what ails me. It did. As soon as I drank the mojito, I'm like, let's roll.
Yeah.
I do remember this.
They were setting up karaoke there.
What?
They were setting up karaoke
they were setting
there.
up. I thought you said you sang karaoke there. I'm like, where the hell was I?
We would have that recorded.
And with that, we're going to put a little bow on this first part of the Loud and Drunk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then make sure that you stick around for part 2 next week. But on that note, be sure to subscribe to this podcast, leave us a 5-star review, check us out on YouTube and Rumble, make sure that you like, comment, share, and hit that notification bell. Follow us on social media. We are at Loud and Drunk on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. If you enjoyed this episode, then become a Loud and Drunk supporter at patreon.com/loudanddrunk. Also, bookmark loudanddrunk.com today. All these links that I want you to, visit, they're right there on the website. Also, you can catch up on the podcast there, check out some merch, everything Loud and Drunk, you can find it there. So for Justin, Moses, Pete, Nic, and Kristina, I'm Dan, and until part 2, this was Loud and Drunk.